for me, this one's easy because I know all these founders pretty well. I know all of them personally, all building amazing brands, two in the food space and one in the wellness space, and both spaces I'm really passionate about. So before we start, actually, what's the idea of this session, right? For all of you to sort of know and understand, right? There's lots of chatter about, hey, D2C is great, it's exciting, but then these brands hit a cap. They can't grow. Maybe they have to go offline. Is the market too saturated? Is there too much competition? And so we're actually going to peel the onion on this one and ask our esteemed panelists what they feel about this, where they are stuck, how they are solving growth challenges. Are they actually leveraging channels like offline, which I was never able to do and I was never successful at, and how they see sort of the next leg of their growth, right? So I think we're going to keep this free-flowing discussion and sort of deep dive into these specific issues. But I wanted to start maybe with Meghana, right? And look, everyone knows the journey of Slurrp Farm. Everyone knows the brand. It's synonymous with sort of the new age era of food brands. But I know from my discussions in the past with you guys, it started as a offline focused business. Then the pandemic hit, it moved to an online business. And now it's moved back to an omni-channel business. So tell us about that journey and really the various aspects of those different channel strategies.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. Always happy to chat with Arjun. You always ask some really good questions. I'll try to do a good job answering them. So I think, D2C might be a cool term and all of that, but fundamentally we're building a food brand, right? At Slurrp Farm, we're building India's most loved kids food brand. D2C, online, offline, these were all sort of terms and ways to get to your consumer. But so that was almost, the channel, not so much sort of anything else for us. When we were starting out in 2016, November of 2016 is when we launched. We launched on Amazon. So we did e-commerce. But I also felt that ये तो बहुत लंबा रास्ता है, 20 साल लगेगा, शुरू करते offline, right? Store by store, 42 lakh stores, all of those crazy numbers. It will take us anyway like 20 years to get this damn thing done. Let's get going. I think that was mistake number one, thinking that we could sell in stores that early in the game. But I think, as with things in life, COVID provided the tight slap that we needed. We ran out of money, and there was only one way to do this, was to break even and continue going. And at the time, the only answer was to just focus on online because we didn't have the money to do offline. In some ways, that's kind of also when the acceleration happened. I think we did not realize just how much at that time offline was sort of taking from us, in terms of energy, brain space, money, all of the above, right? I almost feel like a mentor of mine once, when this whole can women have it all debate had begun, a mentor of mine told me, you can, just not all at the same time. So it almost felt like this is exactly like that. At the end, you're going to have to do it all, but you do it in stages. And online is certainly a great way, to sort of build the brand, get enough people to try it, really finesse your product such that that magical product market fit that people talk about is really done and through, and then you know what to take offline. Because India still is, and especially in food, you will have to go offline. If you want to build a food brand and not just a D2C brand, right?
I think, I don't know if I've told you about this, but Dr. Vedya started as an offline brand as well, failed miserably, and then pivoted to online and never went back offline because I was just too scared of what I had gone through with that experience. So I'm going to segue to sort of talking to Rohit, right? So Rohit, obviously, I know very well for some time. Powerhouse, husband-wife duo building something in the hemp space that all of us find very exciting, right? And there are challenges building this business online, Rohit. The reality is that it's a wellness business and advertising online in wellness is not the easiest thing in the world, right? So talk to us about how you merge the online and offline experience with your brand and engage with customers in a new age category. It's totally new age category. lots of consumer education involved. Amazing customer service that I have seen. I get calls from your customer service team, and I want to say they're the nicest people that have ever interacted with me from customer service. So tell us about that part of your business.
So like, hey guys, my name is Rohit Kamath. I'm like one of the co-founders of like India Hemp Organics, and thank you all for like having me today. So we are essentially in like the business of like category creation, right? That means we need to educate the consumers about what category we are in, and then sort of like sell to them, right? So it's not about creating market share. It's just about sort of creating a new category within like India, which has essentially never been like done before, right? So the way we look at brand is we actually don't see if it's D2C, if it's online, if like whatever modes of like channel which are there, but we actually look at brand as this entire entity which is based on consistent actions you do on every single day, right? That is brand for us. It need not be that, okay, should we invest about 80% in performance or 20% in brand? Of course, to reach like PMF, like you'd have to put like more amount of like money into like performance first, and then sort of once you reach some sort of like in like early like PMF, and you can then sort of like go more for like brand building, right? But the way we essentially see it with our entire customer experience team, so in fact like we don't like call them customer service as well, right? Because we want to give an experience with every phone call we make, with every interaction we do, with every single moment of truth which we have with the consumer. So online or offline, or to us, it actually does not make a big difference, because wherever we find channels relevant to us in which we can educate the consumers, share great experience with them, and build great trust and loyalty, we will essentially go after like those like channels. So of course, being online helps first, which is less like capitally, less like intensive, but eventually to reach scale within India, you will have to go offline, right? So just sort of merging those two online, offline like behaviors and just chasing the consumers wherever they are, I think is a little bit more, relevant to us.
And moving to Ahana now. So look, I think the category of food in India has traditionally been built offline. And there are brands like yours that are now changing the game in terms of both offering as well as channel, right? But at the end of the day, there is always this question on AOV in the food category, right? Like, at a low AOV, is online business possible? Can you manage the logistics costs? What about the volumetric weight of the products, etc.? All of that. Given all of this and a brand that you guys have built over slightly more than 2 years, how do you view this, the sort of unit economics of building a food business online? Is the sort of coming to the fore of quick commerce really helpful? Is it making it more viable? And what's the mix? Like, how do you think about the mix between channels?
Sure. I think, firstly, I would say super excited to be here. I'm actually enjoying listening to this conversation. I'll share a little bit about our journey, and would say, firstly, it's all about being consumer first. So you have to follow your customer. You asked me about quick commerce. You asked me about e-commerce, D2C, offline. Every channel has a very strategic role to play. We started a little over 2 years, and then we are a digital first brand. And the reason why we were online first is because it helped us get a pan-India access and helped us grow really, really fast. So we grew 10x in the last 12 months. And that was possible because of the focus on being online. Having said that, as other panelists have also highlighted, that if you want to cater to geographies like tier 2, tier 3 cities where predominantly consumers are comfortable buying offline, you also have to understand. So if you think about this question, online, offline, channel, geography, it's very, very context driven. It depends on the category you are playing in. It depends the stage of the company. It also depends the strategy that you are going after. Now, coming back to your second question, Arjun, how online was working out for us. Firstly, at Open Secret, what we believe is that we are not here to change habits. It's extremely expensive to change consumer habits. this reflects in the choice of products that we do, right? We stand for unjunking. Our mission is we want to unjunk snacking for every Indian family. So we believe India is a very supply constrained market. Everyone loves to eat what they love to eat, whether it's a cookie, it's a chip, it's a chocolate. We will give you an unjunked version out of it. And similarly, there's also a way you shop about these products online, right? If you imagine you go to a grocery store, you will take a basket. You will go to a cookie aisle, put some cookies, then you will go to chips, and you put some chips, and then chocolates like that. Now, the problem is if you make the customer buy 700 rupees worth of cookies, they're not going to buy it. But 100 rupees of cookies and 200 rupees of chips. So if you see the way online is making sense for us is because we are replicating the offline behavior online. In fact, our AOV has significantly improved as we have launched into multiple categories. Right now, we're present across 10 categories. So it's about, again, being very, very consumer first. It's easier said than done. You will hear this in all the literature. Everyone would say the same thing. But double click on the channel, the product, the geography, everything. And one caveat would be a disclaimer. Please do not just follow what we are saying, right? Because as I said, the answers are very specific to the business that you're building.
I think on that note, right, I wanted to segue from channel to the other big discussion that Ankur and I were having last evening. Look, all early stage founders come to me and ask this question, like, what's the right mix between this brand marketing and performance marketing, right? And I started my journey in 2016 and 2017. We started our online journey, and so we had the good fortune of working in the world where there was not so much competition. And so actually Dr. Vaidya's was built initially on a lot of performance marketing. And then in 2019 and 20, when we scaled as a brand, we realized the importance of brand. And so we were very late to this game of brand, right? Today, I feel that the world is very different. There is 3x, 4x the number of customers online, but 10x, 15x the amount of competition. And so this thing called brand becomes very, very important, right? And I wanted to put this one to Meghna because you guys have always been a very purpose-driven, mission-driven brand, right? Like even in the early days, your website always said something, your products always said something, there was always a mission. And now you guys have signed an amazing brand ambassador, Anushka Sharma, and you're taking forth this sort of mission of building a real brand. So what's your view on this mix between brand and performance, and how much do you actually have to invest? Like founders keep saying, hey, what's the mix? Like, is it 80-20, 70-30? Like, what should the balance be between this top of the funnel content, video, brand ambassador, like big spends, and then the more day-to-day technical performance marketing spends?
Again, I don't think there's a formula, right? Like on day zero, you can't go doing top of the funnel without actually figuring out, the 10 people who buy a product, do they freaking love it? And will they come and they buy it again and again and again and again? So that's the metric that we have sort of really tracked for the past few years, both anecdotally talking to people, improving the product as we've gone along, as well as just, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, right? So we're a brand built by two mums, really focused on helping others who have the exact same problem, which is feeding really fussy customers at home. Anushka just happened to be one more such mother. She's a lot more famous. That's the biggest difference, I guess. But she was also a consumer, right? So her kid eats our product. She's the real deal, in a way that I wish I was even more. Which is she walks all day and she broadly eats sort of millets for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, it just felt like the exact right fit and also the right time, right? We've reached a scale and sort of, repeat rates at which I feel now is a great time to open the funnel, right? Enough people know about the brand, enough people have tried the product and have, it's there, right? At 38, 40% repeat rates. We're in a good position to really sort of get 100 million people to now know about the brand.
Just to follow up, Meghna, on that, right? Because I think the brand ambassador question is one which lot of brands keep thinking about. And you get opportunities now, given the way even these sort of influencer celebrities are, there are various different models that come about, some with equity, some with cash plus equity, some with only equity. But my view, at least, has been that brand ambassador is a catalyst. You have to be at X and brand ambassador will take you to 2X and 3X. But if you don't get to X, then actually it could be a wasted spend as well, right? So what do you think about that? And like, when should a brand think, okay, this is the right time?
Again, I think we've seen brands like sort of Mama Earth, right, have done it a bit earlier, actually, than we, at the stage that we brought in a brand ambassador. And Shilpa, who came in there, really helped them accelerate. I don't know the exact numbers, but sort of that their first 10x came from on the back of her. Our first 10x has come. We're taking it to the next level. So I think, we were comfortable now in that where, literally across channel, I was able to see the repeats make me happy, forget anybody else. So I just felt this was the right time for us to go nuts.
And I think going from the brand ambassador conversation to something which Ahana was talking about from a customer centricity perspective, right? Because my best experiences and my best learnings from my journey as a founder was taking the customer service phone home every Sunday. And this was pre-Exotel and cloud telephony. We had a Android phone where we used to get calls in. And I learned a lot from those customers, and led to product launches. It led to sort of change in the way we sold our products, and thinking about our business as from the customer rather than from ourselves, right? So Rohit, what do you guys do to keep close to this customer, engage with this customer more, get them to come back and make them feel a part of this family? Like, what's the way you want to engage with these customers on a deep basis?
So the way, so like the way, so like the way, essentially, I mean, we like do it here, right? Is that we, I mean, like to stay close to like the consumers at each and every phase of their entire journey with, with these like products, right? And we are also, I mean, look at like customer experience also as like a big brand experience, right? As a big like brand like investment as well, right? Because if you actually see, if you have these, again, I don't want to, I mean, sound like rude here, but if you have these like generalized, hi, I'm calling up from so and so with like a same like with the same pitch and same story and same things, and they have like keywords they have to say, and you have responses. It just becomes very, I mean, robotic, right? So we actually have great people behind the phones to actually speak to these like consumers and to make them feel that we are really there for them at every single moment of their like journey. So for, I mean, example, if like we have like one like consumer who is like suffering from, whose like mother is essentially, I mean, suffering from like cancer, right? We will essentially make sure that we speak to like that consumer and ask him or her about how his like mother is doing, right? At each and every phase of like of their like journey, right? And these sort of like highly personalized, I mean, highly personalized, highly close sort of like interactions keep us very close with these consumers, because they actually feel that we are there listening to them and we care, right? Because again, brand investment can also be having these, big, I mean, influencers there, but like very honestly, it's with every single action that you as a brand take, and also about how you sort of like keep your, I mean, promises as a brand. So if you say that, hey, I'm going to have this like product essentially reach you within like 3 days, make it reach them within about 2 days, right? So it's very honestly, it's, if you really break down the entire, I mean, complexity of brand, right? It's just by following the simple set of actions daily and just keeping very close to like consumers and actually making notes about like what they're saying, what they're feeling, what is their sort of like interaction with you, because then you have like anchor points you can sort of use in the next conversation with them. So they actually felt that, hey, I was being heard of. We had so and so like conversations, and you use like those like conversations as your anchor points for your, I mean, next conversations, and then you use those as your anchor point for your, furthermore like follow up like conversations, right? So that makes them feel, heard and loved essentially.
And I think moving from like hearing the customer to bringing the customer back, right? Because we're talking about beyond the first million, we're talking about achieving scale. We assume that if we're going beyond the first million, there is already some set of customers who've tried the products, enjoyed the products, used the products, and then you're going from there, right? So it's the 1 to 10 or 10 to 100 journey. So from Open Secrets perspective, what are the things that you have seen really work to bring your customers back? Is it cross-sell? Is it upsell? Is it pushing repeats? What's the way to, because as D2C brands, at least for me, retention is our secret sauce, a superpower, right? We have this customer who we can engage directly with. So how have we gone about at Open Secret our journey of retaining, bringing these customers back and increasing this holy grail that we call LTV, right?
I think the first and foremost thing is NPS. So that's the only forward-looking metric.
And for all those who don't understand, can you tell us what NPS is?
Yeah, so NPS is basically Net Promoter Score. So I'm sure you guys might have received a lot of emails from brands asking, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you going to recommend this brand to your friends and family? So typically you will see 9 and 10 are promoters, then you will identify detractors, and you will come up with a number, which is NPS. And this is definitely one of the most critical metric for any brand to track, because if you see everything, right, whether it's retention, your growth numbers, your P&L, everything is backward looking. What did you do in history? NPS is something, if your NPS is good, you know your customers are gonna come back. If your NPS sucks, you know your retention is bad. So there is no secret sauce. If your NPS is great, fantastic. I think what Meghna was saying, just increase the top of the funnel. If your NPS is not working and you have to do category-wise NPS, a lot of the way we do it, you do demographic-wise, you can do geography-wise, you can do category-wise, and you dig deeper. Okay, this product is doing fantastically well. This product, I have to make certain tweaks. So just going back to the basics, understanding from the customer where you are lacking. So that's number one. And I think once you have figured it out, once you know, okay, seeing historical trends, I think cross-sell, upsell, that's an easier thing to crack.
We've talked about channels, we've talked about retention, we've talked about engaging with customers. Now let's talk about this one thing that as founders, all of us don't like doing so much, or some of us are scared of it, right? Fundraising and being the investor or full-time investor. I'm not going to talk much about this. I'm going to put it to our founders, right? So Meghna, look, you guys have done a few rounds of capital raise now. And a lot of younger founders that I talk to in the D2C space actually have this big question mark in relation to fundraising, right? Like, what's the right way to build a pitch deck? Who are the right people to go to? What if they say no? Should I follow up with them 10 times? Or should I just let it go? And why is no one saying yes, etc. All of that, right? And obviously, you guys have been pretty successful on the fundraise part. But just wanted to step back before and ask one question on when do you know it's actually the right time to raise capital for your business, right? Because sometimes when I speak to founders, I say, no, you're not ready yet. It doesn't make sense. Like, do X, Y, and Z, and then maybe it's the right time. So what was the right time for you guys to go out and raise even your first round, right? Which wasn't a very, very large institutional round. When's the right time?
Just that you all know, Arjun is carrying. I still remember when the day we launched our Facebook page, I think we had put this. Our first product was these toddler cereals. I had put it into Modern Bazaar in Delhi, and I got a call from the store manager. He's like, "Madam, big gaye." I was like, "हो ही नहीं सकता. पहले दिन में कैसे बिक सकता है?" And literally like two units. So 6 units were sold, but I was like, there's no way. I literally called like friends in Saket. I was like, yaar, itna bhi kya? Like, it's not, you're so sure I'm going to fail. You've gone and bought the products to make me feel happy. And they all swore upon like everything they held holy that they did not buy it. Then I got a call from William Bissell at Fab India. First, we thought it was a fraud because it said MD at fabindia.com, and he basically reached out and said, hey, I would like to meet. I think what you're doing is amazing. And so that was, I would say, the first person who was sort of interested in, like on day 2, right, of of what the idea of what we were trying to build or the vision of what we were trying to build. So that certainly gave, actually we never actually did raise money from William at the time. It was just too early. I was a little bit like, you bought the series, what are you going to do with it now? But he had bought it for his team to look at, honestly, nothing else. So not even a real customer had tried it. So I think going from there, realizing that, okay, this thing has, at least there's some interest. And then he connected me with, sort of our first institutional investor, Kavaljit Singh, who also asked me and said, would you take some money right now? And I was like, I don't know, this thing's got legs, right? Like, what will I do with somebody else's money? Let me figure out whether we can make something of this thing. I might think is a good idea. Are there another, 10,000 mothers, 15,000 mothers, 30,000 mothers, 100,000 mothers who think this is a good idea? Or is it just me and my sort of echo chamber of people who think this is a good idea? So I think there's no magic timing. I think the wrong answer is that when somebody is willing to give you money, I think when you're ready to take it to accelerate, because what will you do if you don't know what you're going to do with the money? No, so take it at a time when you're ready to take it and do something magical with it, because only then Arjun will want to hang out with you.
But look, I think Meghna had a very successful journey that on day 2, a prospective investor reached out. I think it took me like 2 years, 2.5 years, and 100 unsuccessful pitches to find our investor. So, Rohit, I want to talk reality with you as well, right? Part of our job as founders is multitasking, but another part of our job is, and I remember this, going to an investor pitch, which I thought went really well, but at the end of the pitch, it went super badly. One of the partners walked out of the conversation before we could end. And then I had to get back to the office and get on with it, right? And keep going. So, you're having a conversation, it's not working out the way you want. What's the way we deal with rejection, moving on, failure in this aspect, right? Because, look, I would say, at least for me, I faced lots of failures in business, but even more failures pitching to investors. So how do you deal with this and get on with life, continue with the business? What's your view on this part?
So see, like failure is like a part and parcel of it, right? And I think as being like an entrepreneur, I think most of us here have. I'll actually have to like feel here, but I think like most of us here have very thick skin, right? Because we're so used to sort of facing like mini rejections on daily basis. Even if not with like investors, it can be with sort of hiring, with talent, with customers, with your production going bad, with essentially so many things happening on your like daily life, right? So like the real way in really sort of like reaching there is to like not look at like failure as, oh no, I failed, right? But actually look at the longer like sort of like milestone, and if you know that, okay, I am in this business for the next 15, 20, 30 years of my life, or if I'm here for like 1, 2, 3 years, however the outcome is, you need to give it your best shot, right? Because more than like failure, what I'm very scared of is like regret. I don't mind failing, but I never want to feel the fear of like regret, where I said that, okay, I could have tried this, I could have succeeded, I could have failed. I rather fail than face like regret, because regret is something that I would definitely not be able to sleep with. But like failure is definitely something I can live with, because when you fail, there is always like a positive out of it, because you always learn something, right? And I think essentially by just keeping yourself like physically active, like mentally, through like meditation, yoga, whatever sort of art form it is, right? To like sort of like build that like mental, not just like clarity, but like mental, resilience, that let anything essentially, come your way, you will sort of like figure it out or fight it or just like battle it, right? And having that sort of like mindset at the start of it, like might be like very like difficult if you don't have like a support system around you, but sort of building that like building that like support system of like family, entrepreneurs, friends, founders, investors, mentors is super important, right? Because these people actually like keep you like in check, give you like validation when you essentially need like validation, because humans are again creatures of like validation, right? We need validation at every single phase sometimes, right? From either customers or investors or whoever it is that you actually, I mean, look up to, right? So getting also sometimes out of that entire like validation loop is also very important, because like you're not like seeking like validation at each stage, and you're just sort of like putting your head down, focusing on like what you think is essentially right for like your like customers, your team members, and for essentially, I mean, of course, like maximizing like shareholder like value as well, right? And sort of like taking like decisions based on that, instead of thinking, okay, will I fail, will I not fail? I mean, if you fail, there is always a good outcome of it, because you have like learned something which can happen only by failure.
Definitely much more mature than I was when I was failing, to look at failure as a good outcome. But that's so true, right? Like, my biggest failure led to my best decision to moving online, and that eventually led to the success of our business, Dr. Vedya. So when Ahana just started, Ahana and I got connected through a friend, and Ahana wanted some advice on team. And then Ahana told me who she had in her team. And I was like, dude, your team is so much better than mine, so much stronger than mine, that you know what's up and I don't know what's up, right? And that's one big mistake I made as a founder. If I'm being very honest, I think because I was so young, I thought I could do everything myself. And so the early days at Dr. Ved, it's not in the late days, like after we raised money, but pre us raising money, I think we didn't invest as much in team. And I think you guys have done a great job with that. And because we're talking about beyond the first million, maybe 3, 4 people, 5 people who are really good operators can get the business to the first million today, right? Because fine, e-commerce is here, and if you're really sharp and really good, I've seen people do it. But from there, you can't, right? And so tell us about how you think of team, and how you've brought this amazing group of people together, how you incentivize these people to feel like they're owners of the business, right? Because at least at Dr. Vedas, I remember we had one philosophy: no one was called an employee. Everyone was a team member. So, but we've talked a lot about team. So tell us about how you've built this amazing team, and how you think of team, and how you think of sort of empowering a really strong group of people to a larger mission and vision.
Absolutely. I think especially once you have PMF, the game is about execution. And execution is all about the team. And from day one, the idea was to make Open Secret a talent density. And you must have heard, right? If you have a A-class leadership team, they're going to hire A+ team under them. If you have a B-class leader, they're going to hire C-class people under them. So it's extremely important to have a right kind of talent. And one thing which we are doing, and I especially focus a lot, is culture, and how to have a mission-driven organization. So it's very important that the leadership that we are hiring, they are also driven by the purpose that we are creating. Our purpose, as I said, is we really want to unjunk families snacking. And the kind of people who have joined in, they are also driven by the kind of mission that we have. And the second thing I would say that, there is a mission, and there is a certain belief system. I actually come from a very small city in Rajasthan called Bharatpur. Not proud of the fact that in Rajasthan, women did not have the equal opportunities that existed for men. And for me, it has been a personal mission to bring more and more women onto the journey. So it's not just getting the top talent from Harvard Business School, from IIT, from IIM Ahmedabad, from McKinsey. It's also getting more women onto this journey. In fact, 3 out of a 4 C-level leadership team, it's women. And not just the top level, right? The women are also present in a manufacturing units where they are actually making all the products that we are selling. So it's a lot about focusing on the execution, getting the best-in-class talent who are driven by the purpose that we are building, and they fit really well to the culture. But one recommendation I would have is always hire for the future. A lot of people come and tell me that, but this is expensive, I don't want to do that. But think about the opportunity cost. And I will tell you, the worst thing that you can do is to have a mediocre person. If you have a fantastic hire, they will get a 10x return of whatever they are getting from the company, right? So always think about the opportunity cost. And the worst person will always, you will be like, ask them to leave. The mediocre organization is the worst thing, because you will never be able to rip the band-aid off, and then the execution will always be at an average level. And the kind of impact that we want to create, the kind of households we want to reach, we definitely want to create a talent hub at Open Secret.
I think we've discussed a lot about today, right? And I wanted to end this conversation before we move to questions from you guys to talk about tomorrow, right? So, what's the future for us as we scale our businesses? And so, lots of questions that are being sort of thrown around, right? Like, is D2C not hot anymore? Are brands going to flatline? Is CPM too high? And so now there's too much competition. Are we going to see a lot of consolidation now that there is so much competition, right? So I think I wanted to end this conversation because you guys are the center of things now and building businesses, seeing the day-to-day challenges, with just maybe 2 or 3 key things that you're seeing as you view the future of consumer brands scaling up, going beyond the first million to the 10 millions and 100 millions. What are we seeing in this world that is changing over the next 5 years?
I think 2 things. One is I don't think there's enough brands out there, firstly. We really need lots more new age brands to be screaming the same things we're screaming, which is don't eat like maida, chini, dalda. So I pray every morning for a bit more competition. I don't know, maybe, so I was a competitive swimmer for many years. And I really, my closest competitor actually lives in the city, Nisha Millet, for those of you who know, runs lots of wonderful academies. She is my best friend and the person who knows me the best, right? Is because, your competitors always do and they make you better. So I think fundamentally, there's not enough brands. There's a lot more space, in this country for a lot more brands across categories. So that's one thing. I think also, the past 18 months has shown us there's a lot more headroom just online, right? So while a lot of us are starting, we are still 95% online, and we think that the next sort of 10x is going to come, at least 8 of that 10x is going to come online. So we think there's a ton of space to grow that and reach tier 2, tier 3, and way beyond actually online. Both, and this is not just D2C, this is D2C marketplaces, quick commerce is growing like a weed. So all of that, is really given a lot of us headroom. Also, the offline play itself is shifting as we speak. So, I think by the time where, brands like, Ahana's and mine are really ready to do the big offline push, I think that piece also would have moved into a little bit more, consolidated ways of working as opposed to going city by city, store by store, neighborhood by neighborhood.
And to you now, Rohit, as you see the future of wellness and the future of your brand as well, maybe some key trends that you're tracking or big decisions that you're taking as you see the next leg of India Hemp Organics growth.
Also, one is, I think there is a huge, opportunity in the entire, hemp and cannabis space, within India. Because, if you look at global trends, macro trends, whatever they are, right? You will actually see that all of the hemp and cannabis being used in these markets are actually Indian cannabis being sort of exported there and then standardized and then breaded, and then it's as good as a basmati rice going abroad, but we're not having basmati rice in India, right? It's as good as that. So and also within Ayurveda, we also have more than about 200 formulations that actually use hemp and cannabis in them, right? So where we essentially want to be at is to use sort of traditional Ayurveda backed by modern science as well as the clinical studies, and have a good scientific rationale as well as a viewpoint on this space, and sort of build a global consumer brand from India for the world, right? Because this in the hemp and cannabis space at least has had its own challenges so far, but India today is sort of one of the largest untapped medical cannabis markets in the world right now, and it is quite surprisingly not So like not like a lot of people actually, I mean, know this, but it is one of the largest federally legal sort of like markets in the world right now, right? Because if you actually, I mean, look at US and different states, that you have state-wise regulation, but within India, we can sort of like manufacture like our products in Madhya Pradesh or Uttarakhand or essentially Bangalore, Karnataka, and have it shipped all across India as well as the, I mean, world, right? So there is a great, I mean, opportunity there because about how it sort of, I mean, like interacts with your, I mean, body's like endocannabinoid system, which is a system present within like each one of us as well as like mammals, right? And that system also like is not yet taught in our, I mean, science textbooks over here as well. So there is a sort of great sort of, I mean, opportunity there, and in the, I mean, health and wellness space as well, right? So I definitely see your point. I think India needs a lot more brands, and it also needs like a lot of like new age brands as well.
And lastly, to Ahana, as you see sort of the future of brands, key trends that you're looking at, and maybe a comment on funding and consolidation as we wrap the session and move to questions. Any views on that as well?
Future funding, you covered everything in that. So, from a fundraise perspective, I think the only thing which I would add is, as you're thinking about partners, think about how they can also add a lot more value apart from capital. I think it's extremely important to, of course, investors do due diligence. I think it's important that founders also do due diligence on the investors and understand how they behave during bad times, how they behave, of course, during good time, everything is good. So it's extremely important. And I also understand that that might not be the scenario every single time, but if there's an opportunity and if you can be picky, please bring right people on the cap table. They are going to be your partners. Now, coming to the point how we see the future, I think we are at an inflection point, especially in the consumer goods industry, where there is an opportunity to reimagine the entire value chain. And I do feel that India is a very supply constrained market. And the mistake that we do is we think India is one India. India is not one India. India is 1,000 India. We are talking about a population of 1 billion, more than a billion people. And I have worked in US. In US, you can divide into like 4 or 5 parts. But India is not it's not like that, right? It's such a diverse country. There's so many different needs. So I do agree with what Meghna and Rohit was saying, that it's important, and it's not even important. I think there is a space for a lot more brands to come and make a meaningful difference. Because I'll give you an example, right? Many people might see this online later on. We keep talking about the innovation in technology. We keep talking about machine learning and AI. But look at the snacks and maybe the food that the kids were eating at home a couple of years back. Zero innovation or no innovation. Are you saying there is no space? There is definitely a lot more space. And I think it's the right time. This is new India. And then even not only from a product perspective, but from a GTM perspective. The reason I'm saying it's important to reimagine, because you have logistics, right? You can supply to pan India. Even the offline, as you were hinting, right? Offline is changing completely. These distributors located at different parts of the country, they are getting aware about your brand through Instagram and Facebook. They're reaching out to you and they're paying you in advance. The worst thing in offline is credit. I'm sure a lot of people who might be working in offline is retailer paisa nahi de raha hai, distributor paisa nahi de raha hai. These distributors, if they like your product and they understand that India is shifting, the consumers are asking for better products and they want to partner with the new age brands, and they're actually paying you in advance. So you can actually do the entire fishing and farming of offline through WhatsApp, and they are giving you orders through WhatsApp. So gone are the days where you have to think about, oh, I need a sales team of 1,000 people. I need to go and crack every store. You have to really start reimagining, and I think this is the time for disruption and for new age brands. I think the next decade belongs to brands who are going to stand for unjunking.
On that note, I think wanted to open it up to questions. I think, look, it's been a very insightful session. I just wish I knew all of the things that they know when I started. So is there someone who we can get a mic to? I see 2 questions in the audience. Anyone can help with a mic?
Maybe you can come in the front and we can pass on the mic.
We can. I'll just give them a mic.
Hello, can you hear? Yeah, it was a great session, and my question to y'all is like, hello, no, yeah, my question is like basically, once after like we scale our company to like more than $1 million, like should we invest a lot on like softwares or like on people, right? Like team members, like hiring more people because I'm into like consulting and coaching. Now, if we see like performance marketing, like if we invest the same money on ads or like something, we can get like 2x or 3x and more also, right? Like investing on people, it takes so much time training them, teaching them everything, right? Like, what's your take on
I would say invest wherever you get. If you're investing 10 rupees, if you're getting 100 rupees, it could be via smart resources, it could be smart marketing, it could be maybe smart automation. So you should really think about the opportunity cost and which can and how can you unlock. But I'll let other people to also add.
I mean, I don't have anything wildly different to say. I think fundamentally, you have a piece of cloth and you have to make your suit with it, right? So you cut based on that, and you decide, what the best outcome is for your business. I think for us, the two things that Ahana said it a bit earlier. One is getting good people ahead of time and putting in place processes and technology as quickly as possible within a reason, because you have to understand what process you want to put in place before you go ahead and then technologify it. So, but thinking always sort of trying to be one step ahead of time.
Just to like add here, right? So if we have anything which like repeats more than 3 times in our business, right? Like we essentially make like a process like document of it, right? Like one is that, and then if it is like basically repeating again and again, we have to sort of use like technology, right, to sort of help, and smart automations to help like smart people work more smarter, right? Um, and that helps because in the end you'll have sort of like two like companies in the world. One will be like technology companies and second will be technology companies. So either ways you'll have to use technology and you'll have to use like softwares. It can sort of like vary as to like how much like you would want to like spend on it at like an early stage to like a later stage, but having that sort of seed in at an early stage will be very helpful.
So in some sense, that's selling WebEngage, but not selling WebEngage, right? We had one more question, yeah.
So my question was to Meghna. I wanted to know that you said the retention rate for you is around 30%. Was it, you said of like month, it was a year retention rate or till date retention rate?
No, 3 months. That's
3
how we
months.
track. Yeah.
Okay. And what should be the good retention rate of a year, or means what is the perfect retention rate?
100%, no?
No, but then what is the market retention rate going on? Like for today, for the good brands, for like all of you, what is the retention rate?
35%.
30.
But honestly, the question, right? I think it's a nuanced question, right? Because, like if I buy a mattress, I want to buy a mattress again the next year, right? But if I buy Ayurvedic medicine or I buy food, maybe I'll buy it every month. So I think basis what your use case is, I would answer that.
The other thing I would add is how do you measure retention? If you're an omni-channel brand, you only get the data maybe from your website, but the person might be going and buying from Swiggy Instamart, they might be buying from Big Basket, or they maybe bought from an offline store. So you will never be able to have a perfect retention number, but I think these are some directional numbers that the team is sharing here.
But I think a good thing to do is to call people who have not bought again and understand, have they gone to Swiggy Instamart or have they just gone? That's what you need to understand, right? And if they have just gone, then why?
Yes. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question here specifically to Rohit. India hemp organics. Now, being in India or being outside, we all know the stigma that lies behind cannabis, or the very, fact as to what are the things that people add up in connotations with cannabis. How are you planning to remove that stigma?
So see, what we are like building for is for a long time, right? It is
That's
It is
exactly what
legal
I'm
right
saying.
now.
So there's
It is
there's
legal
a
right-
stigma, and that stigma is not just in India. It is all around the
It's
world at
globally,
this point
correct.
in time. A very handful of, I mean, when we are saying first million, I'm talking about, let's say, 120 billion people, out of which a million is probably right now concentrated on understanding what is hemp, what is cannabis, what are the medical values that could be attached to it. Very, very few of them, handful of it. Now, what is it that we are actually looking at from a larger picture to make it known further to people, where whether it gets legal at any given point in time or not, in a lot of places probably is also for that matter. How are we planning to get that kind of awareness?
Got it. So if I have to essentially, I mean, divide our sort of education approach, right? I would say like one, I mean, education is essentially, I mean, to like consumers, and like the other sort of, I mean, education is I mean, sort of to like to like medical practitioners, doctors, right? Because when you essentially fall sick, who do you, I mean, go to your sort of like medical practitioner, right? And if they are able to sort of help you as well as, I mean, educate you, like you will not like question it twice, right? Because like most things that um, they would essentially, I mean, recommend to you like would be like good, right? And there is a lot of research happening. Like we're also doing like a lot of like clinical trials as well, right? And like the acceptability of hemp and cannabis is widely used, right? Because like when we launched, we thought that okay, this brand is going to be a brand only for like millennials, right? And boy, were we wrong, right? Today we have great grandmothers as old as about 96 using our I mean oils for their sleep, which they've been off sleeping pills since the past 15-20 years. Sorry, which they've been on for. We have like grandmothers using it for their, I mean, arthritis pain. We have like cancer patients as old. So with these sort of like consumers, it's more of a need than a want, right? Where they actually need these like medications to actually, I mean, sort of like wean off their sort of I mean, allopathy medicines or like whatever like they're on, right? And this is, I mean, not to like discredit like like any other, I mean, stream of like medicine. Like I believe in like a very like functional like integrative approach, right? uh, but now with the entire like millennial population, Gen Z population, their acceptability uh, to the entire hemp and cannabis space is quite high, right? And they don't have any such like stigmas associated like towards it. And you have a lot of people actually, I mean, sort of using it also in their meals, in their foods as like a nutrition product, right? So the acceptability of it, yes, is right now like in India, like it might be like early, but it is, I mean, something which is like building on year after year, and we are, I mean, set to see like a massive explosion because like culturally we have had great like significance with this plant, right? It's just about sort of restoring that into the, I mean, right format as to what it's being sort of, I mean, depicted as. And actually, if you see, if I take you back like in history, like cannabis was never ever illegal like in India up until about 1985, and that was only because of like US pressure, right? And India actually fought 25 years after the, I mean, UN passed those laws to, I mean, then sort of like uh, like sort of like prohibit it, right? So we do have a great like cultural significance with it, and I think that with, I mean, proving it in the, I mean, right light, it's set for a massive explosion.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thanks, Rohit. One more question. Last time. Do we have time? Okay. My name is Avlesh. I'm from EngageMint. Okay. Quick check in the audience. How many of you here represent D2C brands here? Okay, few. How many of you do more than 100 crores in revenue? Okay. I know there's a very small audience, but I was talking to Arjun, right, in the afternoon, and even with a lot of companies that also work with at WebEngage, quite a few D2C brands, some of your customers too. General observation, right, is that a lot of D2C brands that's come up in the last few years, they start to flatten out at a 50 crore to 100 crore sort of revenue. Very few sort of break out that tier and go on to become in the 1,000 crore category. And maybe we haven't even seen enough, right? Maybe there's not enough time. My question largely revolves around why does it happen? Is it more systemic? Is it generally like it can't be done, or is it because some of you said, right? What is that you would like to see? I know almost all of you said, oh, we want to see more brands. because you want to create more awareness. And that, in my head, then I'm thinking that if some of these guys, existing folks, are not able to even break out the 100 crore barrier, more and more brands, right? Then it makes the market even more cluttered. How do you create large brands in the very first place, right? Or is the notion of creating large brands is misplaced, right? So I wanted to understand this from you guys as to how you think about this. What is a sizable D2C brand business, right? And I know the answers will widely vary across different categories, but what does it mean? Why is it happening that most brands are not able to break out?
One thing I'll say on this one actually is there is a famous slide, right, that all of us use in our pitch decks. Years that these offline brands took to reach 100 crores, 25, 20, 18, and then years that Mama Earth took to reach 100 crores, 3 years that Wow took to reach 100 crores, 5.
I love those slides.
Yeah, so we all use it, and that's why we sell D2C hard. Reality for me, to be honest, I hear where you're coming from. I think my sense is that we've not given ourselves enough time, and because of so much money being poured into the ecosystem, we are putting unnecessary pressure on ourselves. Brands are long-lasting legacies, right? And most of the 1,000 crore, 2,000 crore, 5,000 crore brands we talk about have been around for a long time. So I think we will reach that number. And I think there is resistance at the 100 crore level. There is definitely. There are some brands that will not be able to cross it. But I think my sense is that with time, we'll be able to get it. But I just wanted to say one thing about this 100 crore number, right? Before D2C brands came, 100 crore was a magic number. If FMCG brand reached 100 crores, like 100 crores. But now you're questioning us about 100 crores.
I agree.
If I could add, I would say I couldn't be more optimistic than I am today. And we are operating, just to give you some numbers, snacking industry, it's 100,000 crores. In the previous era, right, pre-Geo, it was extremely difficult even to get someone aware about the brand. Now with quick commerce, with online, it's not just about mental awareness, even the physical availability of the product has been solved. And I'm not the right person to comment on what has happened in the past, but imagine this is New India. You're operating in a 100,000 crore category. You go and talk to a family. Do they want a better eating product for their families? The answer is absolutely yes. And to give you a proxy, imagine what happened in United States a decade back, right? US was at a similar inflection point, and you will see brands like, if I have to say, like example would be Annie's. Annie's, I guess, was acquired by General Mills for $800 billion. If we have this approach of looking at history and predicting future, we would never have done innovation in the world. It's all about looking how India is at a different inflection point. And I would put my money on the table. There would be 100 crore is nothing. There's absolutely nothing. I think brands should talk about 10,000 crores.
I think you've already put your money on the table, no? That's why you're sitting here. But I think... Yeah. No, I also think that like you're looking at it as a zero-sum game. It's not that, firstly, right? Like the reason I'm saying more competition, more noise, right? Like actually change, if you want to change the way people eat, then you have to make, I can't do it alone, basically. Fundamentally, one is I think where we're getting at.
If I had to summarize to say this, that when you guys say that you need more brands, right, in each of your categories, you just need more brands. Essentially, what you mean is you want more awareness, right? You want more prospective customers. You really want that pie to grow, because from whatever I sense today, it seems like a case of a very small segment of users who you've been able to reach, who are probably like tier 1, tier 2, which are more accessible, right, more available.
I think that's another thing people will tell you. I obviously don't know Ahana's data, but I'm willing to bet that at least 50 to 60% of her sales are coming from tier 2 and
58.
In tier 2 below.
See, I didn't even know, but
actually,
I knew.
Again, I think you need to go into the depth of the things, right? What is the market you're going after, right? If you're going after a niche category, of course, there will be a ceiling. But if you're going into categories which resonates with a mother sitting in Bombay and also a mother sitting in Bharatpur, where I grew up, there is no reason you have to hit a ceiling. What you need to do as a founder, you need to be agile. If you say, nahi, mujhe D2C hi karna hai, it's a very egoistic term. What is D2C? D2C is about you. We have to be consumer first. So to give you an example, we were online, right? But now we understand in tier 3, people might be more comfortable buying offline. So we will learn offline. We will do offline as well. We will have multiple price points. The question is, what is your vision? And there is nothing wrong in having a 100 crore brand. I think it depends on what the kind of impact that the founder is here to create. our mission is to reach every household. Some other mission might be very, very different. So that's why I'm saying every story is different, every context is different. Can you create a 10,000 crore brand? Absolutely, yes.
And also, I think D2C will help you do that, because there never has been a time where, as though people knew who was buying Slurrp. Right now, we actually know. So I think that the key to that 10,000 crores also lies there.
Thank you everyone for your insights. D2C is one of my favorite space, and I think you guys are doing a brilliant job creating niche for the customers on back of just one thing, which is passion. Yeah. So thank you so much. WebEngage is also a big supporter of D2C. We have like a lot of D2C brands. So this just shows our confidence in this ecosystem. So thank you so much for your insights.